Good morning, students. Good morning, class. This is Vivek Birda, your faculty and host for the subject Business Environment. We have so far studied a lot in the business environment. Today, we are moving ahead in our topic, and we will be discussing upon the following topics in our today's class. We will be discussing about the emerging scenario of the business environment in India. Followed by that, we'll be discussing about the environmental scanning, its introduction and definition. Then we'll be discussing upon the need for the environmental scanning, importance of environmental scanning, goal of environmental scanning, characteristics of environmental scanning, components of environmental scanning, significance of environmental scanning, approaches for the environmental scanning, process of environmental scanning, techniques of environmental scanning. In these, we will be studying 6 techniques: SWOT analysis, pest analysis, ETOP analysis, waste analysis, passive analysis, and lastly, industry analysis. Then, in the end, we'll going for the limitations and the conclusion for the topic environmental scanning. So, our major focus for the today's class, or 95% focus for the today's class, will be on the environmental scanning. And before that, we'll be discussing a small topic where we'll be discussing about the various important emerging scenarios of the business environment. So, class, please remember when I talk about the emerging scenarios of the business environment, these are the slide over here shows various points which are directly or indirectly impacting the organizations and are now as an area of concern for the organizations over there. We are into the 21st century, and the 21st century is not same as that was the previous century. In this century, we have seen large number of very strong impact of the globalization. Even the political unpredictability plays a very important role. Additionally, the economic liberalization, technological revolution, outsourcing, emerging market, and the stakeholders' expectation also plays a role. Individually, we will be discussing each topic over here. When I talk about the political unpredictability with respect to India, if I say India being the highest or the biggest number of biggest democratic nation in the world, and it is many times seen that in India, either there is a political party in the state or the center which is ruling the state or the center in either in coalition or in joint with other supporting parties, because of which there is large number of times the specific political party, they are not able to make the strong decisions. We had seen the same thing in the recent elections which had taken up in the 2024 the central elections. And this political environment is something which creates a very strong, which has a very great deal in when we talk with respect to the business environment. See, the political environment or political unpredictability with respect to the coalition administration, either at the center or state, is sometimes seen, and this creates a haphazard economic policies, which either in the long term is not very visionary or are somewhere under the bias format. So please understand these political imperative or those forces which control the nation may also impact the organizations. Organizations have to be very careful, and therefore we usually see on the day of the election results, usually the share market changes are seen very rapidly. Either it goes up or either it falls down. This is because of one of the very strong reasons. If there is a coalition government, or if there is an unstable government, or there is a lack of clarity in the government, that behaves negatively, and that negative impact creates a very wrong message for the businesses. With the opposite to this, if there is a government with a full majority, or there is a government either in the central or state which has a very strong control into the nation, then definitely the organizations or the business houses or the markets, nation markets, they boom up a lot. And this is why, if I talk about the reason why, because the governments which are over here, if they are very clear, very thoughtful, very visionary, they will directly impact the FDIs, FIs, even full focus on the areas of the development, about the businesses, and many more things. The second word into this is called as globalization. See, globalization, when I talk with respect to the Indian context in India, in July 1991, during the late Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. That time, the first time the concept of globalization came into the picture. This globalization is something which is accomplished into the different ways since that time. It is something by which we are fostering the foreign direct investments. We are also looking for how we can inflow the technologies. We are also looking out how to liberalize our goods and services, and additionally expanding the markets and corporates globally, both in and out. So this globalization is something which came into the picture with the impact of definitely in India because of the new industry policy. Additionally, there are many agencies, for example, WTO, World Trade Organization. Then there are many other organizations which have come up together to create a platform where they can trade together. They can create the ease of businesses. They can move in the directions such that they can promote the seamless products and services flow with among each other, and also the investments in both the directions, in both the sides of the on into the different sides. Additionally, these also focus on progressively creating the environment such that our streamlined and a rationalized business environment is created. Therefore, globalization is something, when we talk about globalization, is something which refers to those all initiatives which may or which are impacting the organization in the today's scenario severely. And this is something only and only possible because it is only and only possible because of the moving of the various nations together for a common purpose. That is for the growth of the mankind and for better ease of better making the business together. The third over here is economic liberalization. See, economic liberalization represents, if I talk again about the history, the economic liberalization represents 1948 economic, the industrial policy, 1948 industrial policy. This policy was passed in the April 1948, in which, with respect to the Indian economy, there has been a very regulated and a controlled framework, because majority of the things they were either owned by the government or they have got the government as the ownership on those things. But these days, it's based on the various promotions, various feedbacks, various ease of doing the business, various advancements. This economic liberalization is creating a good benchmark among the business houses, factories, or in for various setups, by providing the platforms so that businesses can flourish very easily. And the wrong practices such as MRTP. MRTP represents for Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which was of early 1970s, which was abolished later on in order to reduce the wrong practices over there. Additionally, there are various acts, for example, implemented either by SEBI, FICCI, or even by any other agencies. These all agencies create the platform such that the organizations are directly or indirectly making the benefits using this economic liberalization. Next, we talk about the technological revolution. See, technology is something on around which the entire world is rotating. You can't imagine the same thing which is today will be available in the professional world, in the industrial world, in the production areas after 10 years. In this span of a decade, multiple new things will come up. New technologies will come up, new practices will come up, and this technology revolution is something which is never stopping and never immune to anyone. It is because in the field of IT, that is information technology, communications, production, or computerization, the large number of equipments which are there in the businesses or which are over there, they are creating the high level of advancements in with respect to the technological advancements. Therefore, any organization, any company, whosoever is over there, if the organization is directly or indirectly focused on the technology, then definitely it is an edge to them that they will definitely grow up. Otherwise, there are chances of failure. Next is outsourcing. See, outsourcing is something, when you talk about outsourcing, is something you can say A small talents, they are being picked by the bigger talents or by the bigger volume of the companies to give their tasks. So outsourcing represents the outsource of the things. The country like India or other developing countries or underdeveloped countries, they are being selected by various organizations which are part of the developing economies or by other big players. They outsource their things, get those things done from them because of four reasons. First, either because of the cheap labor, or because of the talent pool available, or because of the convenience, or even because of various policies which are in that country, because of which the people, the organizations, they select the other peoples in order to execute those things. So remember, this outsourcing is something which is dependent on various reasons. For example, what is my expertise or what is the expertise of a specific group of people, then how much focus they are. Even the financial reasons becomes a very important factor for over here. Additionally, in this part, we need to remember that outsourcing is something in which we like to create a small blueprint about how the things will execute in the future. Now, the role of rural market. When we talk about business environment in India, the rural market is something which can't be ignored. Remember that India is almost said to be as the major part of the Indian market is almost said to be as into the rural side, because this is the market which is these days increasing and expanding very rapidly. And the companies have to create their marketing strategies, companies have to create their tools and features such that they can make that particular market working for them. Urban markets are very crowded. Either it is the market of Chennai, Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Pune, or any other locations, they are very crowded. And these, they are even oversupplied also, because of which the businesses are getting challenges and the problems. Now, this rural market, which is growing at a very high speed, that time, large number of companies, for example, Hindustan Lever, Palmolive, Lipton, Colgate, or Brook Bond, or even various paints companies, they all move into the rural market with a different logo, with a different tagline, with the different products, and the different packaging also, in order to explore the various growth opportunities in that particular area. And even remember, in that segment also there is a very fierce competition. Thus the considerable expansion of the rural market can be asserted by to the extensive socio-economic transformation occurring in these regions. The last over here is stakeholders' expectation. Stakeholders are those people who have directly or indirectly control on the organization. And when we talk about these stakeholders are affected by the company's decisions and they have an interest in that part. This stakeholder, remember, this stakeholder is basically, the stakeholders are now holding such as the investors, communities, societies, etc. These are with the high expectations for the business, and therefore we have to be very careful in either selecting our product line or selecting our clients, selecting our suppliers, selecting the market, and many more things, because these all individuals create a very important role these days. So this is all about the various emerging scenarios in the business environment in the country. Now we are moving to the next topic, that is called environmental scanning. What is environmental scanning? Here we will be studying very detail about the environmental scanning. You can see on the screen there is an image which shows various keywords related to the environmental scanning. So what is environmental scanning? Environmental scanning is nothing but it is a process of gathering the information about the events and their relationship with the internal and the external environment of the organization. The primary aim of the environmental scanning is to find out the future prospects of the business. Now, one word is very important. Environmental or environment doesn't represent nature; it represents basically the businesses. It basically represents the organization. So, environmental scanning is the process of gathering the information about the events and their relationship with the internal and the external environment of the organization. And thus the primary aim of the environmental scanning is to find out the future of prospects over there. And remember, this business environment is made up of many different elements that function at both the macro and macro level. These elements include economic, socio-cultural, political, legal, natural, international, technological, and many others. But the company's first aim should be to pinpoint the area of surrounding environment that is strategically important, and therefore this is called to be as a relevant environment. And as a significant resource of the management, the Environmental Scanning Committee enables the management to make the decisions from the fundamental analysis of the historical events to estimate the future events. And thus, the committee also helps in creating the action plan to address their upcoming events, analyzing the action plans, and arranging the appropriate resources for those plans, and putting the management in contact with the fellow employees with the knowledge set to provide the quality data for decision making or the decision making. Now, moving ahead, how we can define the environmental scanning. See, environmental scanning can be defined by in a very simple name and language, nothing beyond that. It is nothing but it is a process of scanning. Means you are basically looking at a very macro level. You are basically studying the things in a very detailed way. So it is process of collecting, evaluating, and delivering. It is process of collecting. Again, I'm repeating. First, you need to collect, then you need to analyze or evaluate, and then finally you have to deliver the information for the strategic purpose is called as an environmental scan. And this environmental scanning is representing basically the scanning of the businesses, organization, or the industries. Thus, the process of environmental scanning requires both accurate and personalized data on the business environment in which the organization is operating and considering entering. Now, what is the need of environmental scanning? When I talk about the need of the environmental scanning, environmental analysis will be help the firm to establish what is happening around and inside the organization, and to increase the probability that is organizational strategies developed will appropriately reflect the organizational environment. Environmental scanning is necessary because there are rapid changes which are taking place in the environment that is great impact on the organization of the business. Analysis of the business environment helps to identify either their strength and weakness or opportunity or threats. And for example, one technical tool called SWOT analysis is necessary for the survival and growth of every business enterprise. And therefore, the aim of environmental scanning is to pinpoint the important factors that provide practical insight. An organization should be able to establish the plans. Organization should be able to establish the plans that take advantage of personal external possibilities or neutralize the protection degree in order to respond to the important elements either proactively or defensively. Thus, the initial stage of the strategic management process is called as environmental scanning. Remember, the initial stage of the strategic management is even called as an environmental scanning. This can be read as a vice versa. When we study about the strategic management, the initial topics which have been taught is based on your business environment, but this is based on this environmental scanning. Now, moving to the next part, what are the importance of environmental scanning when we talk over here? See, the importance of environmental scanning can be studied very carefully, and this importance is something which we need to study out very carefully, because the importance is something which represents the things over here. So the importance of the environmental scanning includes identification of the strength. Identification of the strength is nothing but it is basically a process how you can make your things more adaptable to you. How and what are those things for which the organization should focus to each other? What are their core competencies is again studied by taking up the environmental scanning. Second is the identification of the weakness. Identification of the weakness represents basically those steps or those things through which your own analysis has been done. A company or the organization, they need to identify those things through which their own challenges can be improved. So strength is again internal, weakness is again internal. Environmental scanning is very important in order to identify our own competencies and our own challenges. Now, when we talk about the opportunities represents all the things which are in our external side, which can become as a supportive stages or steps for the organization. So through the environmental scanning, we try to identify how we can create a better place or better opportunities for our organization by scanning those things. And also identification of the threat represents how we can reduce or how we can minimize the things over there. Now, optimum use of the resources is a very challenging. Optimum use of the resources means the organization have to carefully scan all their resources. They have to study either using the operations management tools, inventory management tools, through proper planning, through proper management. They have to identify either which stage, which tool is to be used, which resources is to be used, which are tangible, intangible resources, which are perishable, non-perishable resources, which are important, can be avoided situations. And these resources are nothing but the man, money, machine, broadly, if I say, and the extensions of these. So resources are limited, and we have to carefully check how and way we can make our resources utilized. Environmental scanning is additionally important for our survival and growth, because survival and growth is something which plays a very important role. Any organization is there for a long-term survival, long-term growth. This long-term survival or the growth is only possible if we keep on regularly checking our environment, regularly scanning our environment, regularly analyzing our environment, our competitors, the business policies, the legal framework, the challenges which are over there, the opportunities which are over there, and then only we can see how and where we can grow and how and where we can even survive. Scanning is again additionally important for our long-term strategy or the business strategies, because business tools or business strategies are framed or are planned using a detailed scanning of the environment. This scanning is or environment is basically the business environment. We scan the business environment to either forecast the future, to predict the future, even to analyze how in better way we can work out what resources can be useful to us. Thus, environmental scanning next, it is very important into the decision making. Decision making is a tool or it is a platform through which we can create the things very strongly. Decision making is not an easy cup of tea. For decision making, you have to be very with large number of information. That information is being studied, compared, analyzed, and also checked out at different stages. And if things are very good, then definitely those scanning of the environment supports our decision making. The decisions can be either increasing the production quantity or launching of a new product or meeting up with the competitors or checking how the new policies of the country can impact the organization or changing the behavior of the customers or consumers or any other things. It may be either related to the political, social, cultural, demographic or any other things. This environmental scanning is additionally important for the goal accomplishment. Goals are something which represents our long-term goals, our short-term goals also. These goals are nothing but basically the end point where we want to go at this moment, not permanently at this moment and further ahead to that. So goals are achieved only when we are able to scan our environment very carefully. This scanning of the environment is basically checking out how and where we can make the things possible. How and where we can make the things possible. And scanning, the better we do the scanning, the better we are able to achieve our goals. We have discussed the next point, that future forecast. Through the scanning, we are able to analyze the things using the statistical tools, using the correlation regression methods, or even the least square methods, or even use just by studying the things theoretically, also analyzing the environment, we can at least able to give a small prediction for our product or services. Then about the market knowledge, when we talk about the market knowledge, the organizations are something which we need to discuss a lot. The organizations are something where we need to carefully study things over there. Next over here is focus on the customers. Focus on the customers represents that the organizations over there, they are they are somewhere here or there busy with large number of things. And through this particular focus on the customer, through this through this focus on the customer, the organizations are highly and highly highly and highly focused to their customers. They check the customer patterns, customer behaviors, customer purchasing style, their frequency of patterns, their things which make them happy or which make them unhappy, and because of which these setups, either small scale, mid scale, medium scale, large scale, or very large scale of PSUs, everyone focus on improving their services. Now, what are the goals of the environmental scan? Environmental scanning mainly have three goals. The first goal is to acquire through the understanding of the environment's current state and through the prospective alterations. It is out to do more than just gathering the data. It is out to be sought significant information for making the calculated decisions. Now, the other contribution to the process of developing the strategic decisions is to inform the strategic decision that the data acquired from the scanning must be efficiently used. And third, to encourage and support the strategic decisions inside the organization. That is by simulating the creative thinking and challenging co-convinced notions, the environmental scanning shall provide new ideas into the organization. What are the characteristics of environmental scanning? And the characteristics are total four. The first characteristic is continuous process. Second is exploratory process. Third is dynamic process. And the fourth is holistic process. So continuous process is, as the name says, environmental scanning is very, very continuous. It is not sporadic, that it is sometimes once in a blue moon too. It is a continuous process because the environment is changing very rapidly, and therefore it is very important, we have to be very careful in selecting our places. So additionally, starting up businesses, and additionally we have to be very careful in continuously scanning those things which can improve, or continuous tracking of things which can make our things more viable. Next is exploratory process. Exploratory process is nothing but it is something which process that keeps monitoring the environment to bring out possibilities and unknown dimensions in the future. See, exploratory process means you are scanning the environment by asking questions to yourself or to anyone. For example, what would happen if I do not do this? Or what would happen if I do this? Then what would happen? Excuse me. What would happen? Then what will happen? Next is dynamic process. Dynamic process is something which represents the environmental scanning is not static. It is dynamic and it depends upon changing situation. It depends upon the changing situation. This changing situation is very, very important, very, very carefully planned out, because the organizations, processes, they are changing a lot. Then the next is holistic view. Environmental scanning is very importantly being done by studying the entire thing very carefully. It's not just a small thing. It is studied rather than doing it partially. It is studied by focusing on the organization overall over there. Next is component of the environmental scanning. The environmental scanning are of two types. The first is internal environment, second is external environment. Internal environment represents all those components that lie within the organization, and the changes in this affect the organization performance of the organization. There's the external environment represents all those components which fall outside the business organization. External environment. Now through the components which lie outside the organization, they still affect the organization activities, and thus the external component can be divided into macro environment, components. What is the significance? Significance is something which represents your importance also. But to be little specific, significance of the environmental scanning is first, it helps to achieve the goals and objectives. Secondly, it even helps in identification of the weakness and threat. Weakness and threat are the internal part, goals and objectives are external part, and forecasting the future is again very important part. Help us to predict how and way the things will move in the future, coming future. Then it zero in on the customer, that means the environmental examination scanning make an recommendation with changing requirements and assumptions for the client. Next is identification of the opportunities. See, the identification of the opportunities is nothing but it is basically the examination of the current situations in the environment. An association will actually want to recognize the potential change chances and make the vital strides. Thank you. This is for today's class.